Welcome again to your Medicare Moment. My name is Will Blanton from the Blanton Insurance Group. So glad to have you back once again, and happy to be rejoined by Sam Olsen, who is an independent agent up in the Napa wine region. How are you doing today, sir?
Wonderful, Will. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. So we've been going through the letters of the Medicare. We've gone A and B, but now we're going to be a little bit different because C is not quite the same. So when Medicare first started in 1966, there were only A and B, which are called original Medicare. You had your hospital insurance for A, and you had your medical insurance for B. But in 1997, they had the Balanced Budget Act, which Bill Clinton signed into law, which brought in a new member of the plan, Part C. Now, Sam, let's go and talk about this because there are differences from original Medicare. We're going to break them down a little more, but maybe you want to give an overline here.
Sure. So we'll do a quick overview here. The important thing to know is that when you do sign up for a Part C Medicare Advantage plan, that Part C benefit or plan is going to be taking over your Part A and Part B benefits. And so what that can look like is a Medicare Advantage plan will often have a lower premium compared to a Medicare supplement, but generally a much higher out-of-pocket max. It can be upwards of $9,000 a year on some of these.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, with an Advantage plan, it's going to be more like your traditional health insurance where you're used to having several co-pays, to see your doctor or specialist, or a set co-insurance for a particular service like a surgery. A real big key difference between a supplement and an Advantage plan, Part C, is that the Advantage plan does require you to stay within a network.
Right.
Most of these are HMOs. There are some PPOs, but still it's not as good as it may sound. So then there's the use of prior authorization with Medicare Advantage, which I know will go into deeper. But essentially, the insurance plan is now in charge of approving or denying your services rather than Medicare.
I've always said you pretty much can put your Medicare card away because you're not going to be utilizing it at that point.
Right. That's exactly right. And one of the reasons why they can call it an Advantage plan, or why they do call it, is because they usually offer some type of dental and or vision benefit. And so they're adding a benefit to that isn't covered by original Medicare or a supplement. And then generally in most plans these days, especially in California, your drug plan is going to be bundled into the Medicare Advantage plan, whereas a supplement, you need a standalone plan for that.
Right. And probably most of the advertising you've seen, and we see quite a bit of it with Joe Namath and William Shatner and all these, are usually for these Medicare Advantage plans. And I've always said the devil's in the details. So make sure you're really looking into just not the flashiness or, hey, I like that guy on the football field, but really see what's going to be best for your situation. And that's something in which both Sam and I can both help you with. Let's talk about the networks a little more here, because we talked about networks, that Medicare does not have a network. Medicare is just Medicare. If your doctor takes Medicare, they take your insurance. Not quite the same with the network system. They do what's called a gatekeeper system for a lot of them, which is your primary care doctor is your base point for pretty much everything that is going to be done. That includes who you get referred to. That includes what they decide in their treatment, where Medicare does not necessarily have that. Sam, anything else you see with networks that people really should be aware of?
Yeah, you may sign up for an Advantage plan and you make sure that all of your doctors are a network to start. But one of the problems is that the doctors aren't required to stay within the network.
Right.
And we see, especially here, we just saw this in Napa County last year, several Advantage plans, and the doctors here did not get along. And so the clients were kind of caught in the middle, having to find doctors and specialists that fit with their plan. So that's one of the problems that we see. This also happened down south with Scripps Hospital. The Scripps, they said, hey, we're no longer going to accept any Medicare Advantage plans. And there was thousands upon thousands of people in those types of plans that were left scrambling to find doctors.
And once again, that's the big difference between Medicare, original Medicare, and Medicare Advantages. Those networks are not static. they have the ability to change on a regular and consistent basis. So definitely something to think about, especially since original Medicare does not have a network. So it's one of those things to really think about for your situation. Let's also talk about prior authorizations, because when you're on a Medicare, original Medicare, and a supplement as well, you actually are able to get the service you need. You don't have to wait for a board to decide if you're going to have that. There could be appeals and everything else involved. Anything else you're seeing with prior authorizations with your clients?
One of the biggest things is that it's often imposed on more serious services like surgery. So you can almost bet, if you have an Advantage plan, that prior authorization will be required. And we often see that the first submission for approval is denied. And so the doctors have to figure out how to get the service approved.
Right.
And oftentimes those appeals are or the prior authorizations are overturned into the client's favor.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the last thing you want to be worried about, is while you're having something serious going on, is my service going to be approved? And this inherently is an issue, because this puts the insurance company in charge of your healthcare rather than your doctor.
Yes.
In my opinion, that shouldn't be the case.
I tend to agree with you there. Also, something in which you might want to think about if you are on original Medicare and you do want to jump into a Medicare Advantage plan, you can go back to original Medicare, but the nice little addition to original Medicare supplements, which we'll be talking about in a future episode, but you are not necessarily permitted to go back onto it, because there are some rules and limitations with that. Sam, you want to share a little more on that?
Yeah. So, if you go beyond 1 year of being on a Medicare Advantage plan for the first time, you are not guaranteed to be accepted. As you said, Will, you have to pass medical underwriting.
Right.
And which in other words means you have to medically qualify. There are generally 12 to 15 health questions that you have to answer. And with most insurance carriers, most supplemental insurance carriers, if you answer negatively to any of those questions, you're just flat out denied.
Right.
It's not like they charge you a higher premium to compensate for that risk. They just say, hey, we don't want to underwrite you. And they also look at other things too. You may be able to answer all those questions with, flying colors, everything's great, but they're going to look at your medications. And they also are going to look at your health history beyond what you put on the application. And often there's a phone interview as well. So, every year, especially during the open enrollment period, I get clients or potential clients that want to come off their Advantage plan, and they can't pass the underwriting portion, and they're kind of stuck in that system, or they have to go to original Medicare without a supplement, and that adds a whole bunch of risk to your financial portfolio.
Absolutely. And then, talking about the open enrollment period as well is one thing to be aware of. Unlike supplements, which are static, drug coverage can change every year, including your benefits can change every year. So it's not necessarily that the plan you have now is the plan you're always going to have, right?
That's right. Yeah, these plans they can, and they often do change every single year. I have never seen an Advantage plan stay the exact same. So you're constantly having to evaluate your coverage each year and make sure that, hey, am I still getting the best benefits, and are my doctors still in network, and those types of things.
That's another thing when we talk about supplements on a future episode here, of the difference between an Advantage plan that can change and a Medicare supplement that is locked in for your life. So that's definitely something to think about. Let's talk about the important things. We had an episode already about the Medicare Advantage open enrollment period. It's ticking by. We're halfway through it already when we're recording this episode here. And March 31st is that date. Let's talk about the things in which we can do. One thing you can do is go from one Advantage plan to another, and you can apply for a supplement. But like Sam was just sharing, if you've been on that plan for over a year, there's not a guarantee for that, right?
That's right. So we always make sure that you're approved for the Medicare supplement before we take you off of the Advantage plan, because we do want you to have some coverage.
Right.
And so as long as we get the green light from the supplemental company, then we go ahead and remove you from the Advantage plan.
Very great information. Sam, once again, if people want to connect with you up in the northern part of California, how do people do that?
You can Google my name, Sam Olsen Napa, or Sam Olsen Medicare. Usually that pulls us up to the first result. Or you can call our office at 707-690-1965.
Sam's always a great resource. I'm also available to you as well. I got my information there on the screen. Blanton Insurance Group, area code 661-495-0661. Or you can just go to Blanton Insurance Group. You can actually do a Medicare checkup, so we have a chance to see what your situation is and see what's best for you as you continue on. Sam Olsen from the Napa Rhine region. I always appreciate the time you have for me, man.
All right. Thank you, Will.
And we'll see you next time with another edition of your Medicare Moments.